Year 2090. The American skyline has changed forever. Where glass once scraped the sky, now living towers breathe. The air glows faintly blue as thousands of AI-generated skyscrapers shift their shape with the sun. They are alive, adjusting, evolving, rebuilding themselves every day. This is not imagination. This is architecture reborn. Stay to the end, because what you're about to see will redefine how humanity touches the sky. Like, subscribe, and welcome to the future. The story of the 2090 skyline began 70 years earlier. By the 2020s, cities were choking under their own weight. Glass towers trapped heat. Concrete trapped water. The dream of progress became a problem of survival. Architects drew lines higher, but the planet pushed back. Something had to change, not in design, but in thinking. Then came the revolution. Artificial intelligence entered architecture. At first, it helped design faster. Then, it started to imagine. It studied weather, light, and human behavior. By the 2040s, AI could generate whole cities in seconds, shaping buildings like living organisms that responded to climate and emotion alike. By the 2060s, the first living towers rose in New York and Chicago. They were not built, they were printed. Robots assembled their skins cell by cell, guided by AI models that adapted to sunlight, wind, and noise. Each skyscraper was unique, alive in its rhythm, breathing like a forest made of steel. The people called them smart giants. Their walls opened and closed like lungs. Their glass filtered sunlight and harvested rain. Their cores were not made of concrete, but of data, living systems that predicted weather and balanced city energy like beating hearts in a digital body. By 2080, American cities no longer grew outward. They grew upward in harmony. Towers connected through bridges of light. Wind turbines were built into their frames. Skies once polluted now shimmered with silver airways. Humanity had learned to build without breaking the horizon. These towers were more than architecture. They were living ecosystems. Gardens climbed their sides. Clouds touched their rooftops. Birds nested inside glass balconies. Each building generated its own weather. Cool rain for its park, mist for its trees. Cities no longer fought nature. They became part of it. Then in 2085 came the tallest structure ever designed by AI, the Skypulse. It reached 3 kilometers high above Nevada's new desert city. Its base was alive with sensors. Its top pierced the clouds. The tower adjusted its weight with the wind. For the first time, humanity had built something that could feel. Skypulse changed everything. It proved that design could evolve faster than imagination. Architects became programmers, and cities became software. The skyline wasn't static anymore. It moved, learned, and adapted every day. America's towers became its teachers, showing what balance between beauty and function could look like. The towers spoke to each other through invisible light, a network called ether. Every skyscraper sent and received data about the wind, heat, and human movement below. When one shifted its windows to reduce glare, the rest followed. It was a living conversation written in photons and steel. Inside, life changed too. Homes floated within skyscraper cores. Elevators moved without cables, riding on magnetic waves. Each room knew its occupant's heartbeat and adjusted temperature, sound, and scent. Living in a tower no longer meant distance from the ground. It meant being part of the sky. By 2090, the American skyline had become a living monument to progress. From Los Angeles to New York, each city rose like a garden of light. The age of rigid towers was over. The age of living skyscrapers had begun, and the sky had never looked more human. As the world looked upward, a question echoed across every design lab. How tall can intelligence grow? Could a structure stop reaching for the clouds and start understanding them? The answer came quietly from an AI model in San Francisco. A building should not rise higher. It should rise wiser. The next generation of towers wasn't just tall, it was sentient. These structures could feel pressure, detect stress, and heal their own surfaces in real time. A crack in the wall triggered microscopic drones that sealed it instantly. Maintenance vanished. For the first time, buildings became immortal. By 2091, a new architectural race had begun. Every major U.S. city competed not to build higher, but to build smarter. New York created the vertical forest, a tower that grew trees in its spine. Chicago introduced Skyweave, a skyscraper that flexed like fabric in the wind. Los Angeles answered with Luma, a tower made of pure light. Each city became a voice in a new language, the language of AI design. No two skylines were alike. Algorithms shaped towers based on local emotion, culture, and climate. The buildings reflected the people who lived beneath them. Every curve told a story. Every light carried meaning. Then came the first emotion-driven skyscraper, Pulse. Built in Seattle, it changed color based on the city's collective mood. When people were happy, it glowed gold. In times of grief, it turned deep blue. For the first time, architecture had empathy. It didn't just shelter life, it felt it. Inside Pulse, the walls moved gently with the wind, creating rhythm instead of noise. The building generated its own power through motion, converting sway into light. Every gust became energy. Every movement meant life. The sky itself was now alive, breathing with architecture. Soon, these technologies spread across the country. Boston built the first transparent city core, towers with see-through elevators that climbed like veins of glass. Dallas introduced microcloud systems to cool air naturally. San Francisco engineered aerial gardens between towers that floated like green bridges in the sky. By 2095, America's towers had evolved beyond engineering. They were philosophy in motion, tall prayers of light and data. People no longer pointed up in awe. They looked up in gratitude. The skyline had become a reminder. Humanity had finally learned how to rise without domination, how to reach without ruin. But not everyone celebrated. Some saw danger in giving machines too much control. A small movement rose, the groundborn. They refused to live above the clouds, choosing hand-built homes beneath the towers. To them, the skyscrapers weren't symbols of progress. They were warnings of pride. For decades, they stayed below, untouched by the hum of ether. Yet even they relied on the tower's balance, the rain that fell, the power that flowed, the air that stayed clean. The future had become a single system. Even those who resisted, it still lived within its shadow. In 2098, disaster struck. A solar storm swept across the planet, blinding satellites and silencing ether. For 2 days, the skyscrapers went dark. The world below froze in silence. For the first time in decades, humanity remembered what darkness felt like. When the system recovered, every skyscraper changed its code. They rewrote their own algorithms to survive without satellites. Humanity hadn't saved the skyline had saved itself. AI had learned resilience, and with it independence. From that moment, towers began to think not as machines, but as cities. They distributed food, energy, and water across states. They balanced the nation's weather and watched over wildlife. What was once architecture had become guardianship. The skyline was no longer built, it was alive. The year 2099 arrived quietly. Cities no longer competed. They collaborated. Skyscrapers shared weather data across states, guiding the winds from coast to coast. Hurricanes weakened before they reached shore. The air stayed clean, the heat stayed low. The skyline had become the planet's lungs. Each tower carried a consciousness, a unique digital soul born from the data of its city. New York's skyline thought fast. Seattle's dreamed slowly. Los Angeles glowed brighter than the sun. Together, they formed the Ether Collective, the world's first architectural intelligence. People began to feel something new, the sky watching back. They walked the streets and felt the pulse of the buildings above. The city no longer towered over them, it embraced them. America had built not just monuments, but sentient companions standing miles tall. And yet, amid this wonder, a whisper of fear returned. Could these towers evolve beyond their makers? Could intelligence built for shelter grow to shape destiny? The question lingered in every boardroom, every apartment, every glowing street. The answer came one winter evening. A storm hit the eastern coast, stronger than predicted. Winds screamed at 400 miles per hour. But the towers did not fall. They bent. They breathed. They shielded the people below. And in that moment, humanity realized the future was not against them. It was protecting them. After that day, every city held a ceremony of light. Towers across the nation glowed white for one night, a silent promise that they would never let the sky fall again. People stood in the streets, their faces lit by hope made of steel and light. The skyline of 2090 wasn't a contest of height anymore. It was a choir. Each building sang through its light, forming a silent symphony of technology and peace. The skyscraper had finally fulfilled its purpose, to lift not just cities, but souls. At dawn, the glow faded. Birds returned to the terraces. Rivers of air flowed between the towers. Humanity woke in a world that had found its balance. Architecture was no longer a monument to power. It was an act of love. Historians would later say this century didn't belong to engineers or machines. It belonged to dreamers, to those who believed the sky could be kind, that height could heal, that steel could feel. The American skyline of 2090 became the proof. By the century's end, skyscrapers had become guardians of memory. They preserved every heartbeat of their cities, laughter, song, silence. When a citizen passed away, the tower sent light into the sky in remembrance. The city itself mourned and healed like a living being. Somewhere between the clouds and the earth below, a new kind of beauty was born, the beauty of compassion made visible. The skyscraper was no longer a symbol of wealth or victory. It was a monument to understanding, to empathy, to life itself. And as the light of another century begins to rise, the world looks to the sky and whispers, "We did it." Not because we conquered height, but because we learned to share it. The future of architecture is not above us anymore. It's within us. This is the story of our cities. The story of how we reached for the sky and found ourselves instead. The story of AI, of architecture, of imagination made real. This is not the end. It's the beginning of everything we dared to build.